Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? You've got a beard now.
Yes, and a long beard. I look like Santa Claus.
It's very cool. I like it.
I wanted to get my mustache wax for this, but all through the video, I'm just going to go like that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I would. Are you going to do like a Dali and get it really?
Yes, I'm going to impersonate Daddy now.
Why not? So the reason I wanted to talk to you is obviously I know you through Lauren, and I think I loved your artwork the first time I saw
Thank
it.
you.
Very much
Thank
the
you.
kind of art that I like, expressive colours, and it always stuck in my mind. But also I was really interested just because your job, your sort of normal job, and the creative side, and
Yes,
you know, I'm an advocate for art education, and in education there seems to be this belief that you are either academic or artistic, and so
that's right.
yeah.
That's right. Well, it all started many years ago. I always liked to paint, and it came the crunch to decide if I wanted to be a doctor or if I wanted to be a painter. And the decision was taken because I said, if I am a doctor, I can always paint, but if I'm an artist, I cannot be a surgeon. So that was the logic of it,
Yeah.
and somehow I managed to juggle both things.
So you grew up obviously not in London. You grew up.
Yeah, I grew up in Mexico City,
Yeah.
and I was born there, and uh, I had my introduction to painting by. He was a very famous Mexican painter from the peninsula of Yucatan in the Caribbean, and he was the director of one of the schools of art in Mexico called Esmeralda. For we knew the family and things like that, and he agreed to take me and teach me a few things. It was what he taught me it was not what he was intending to teach. He was a very strict, old-fashioned chappie.
Yeah.
And I remember I arrived to his studio the first day, and he sat me down. He put a cup in front of me and said, "Draw it." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I drew the cup, and he came back, "No, no, look at this and look at that." And it took me about 3 weeks of drawing the same cup. Okay. But at the same time, how I learned to do things is by chatting to him, because I was drawing, he was doing his stuff, and I was talking to him, and I learned a lot that way. And also I was watching him, how he prepared his canvases, how he thought about it, and all that I learned because I was there, but not because he taught me directly.
Were you in his studio space? Was it an inspiring?
Yes, I was sitting in his studio. He was in one end of the studio with big canvas, because he used to do big canvases, and I was sitting on a little table with a blooming cup in front of me.
And was his work abstract or?
No, he was figurative. He was very similar to what you see with Diego Rivera and things like that. A lot of Mexican flowers and Indians and some landscapes. His name was Castro Pacheco, and he's venerated like the biggest painting of the south of Mexico.
Was anybody in your family an artist or interested in art, or did
No.
From you?
Well, my parents were very interested in art, but they were not artists.
Yeah.
And so probably I got the worm that way. And I started painting from the moment I was 3 and I could hold a pencil. I was doing things, I always liked it.
And do you remember any like art lessons in school in Mexico? Did you have art?
They were horrible. They were absolutely horrendous. There were primary school. There was virtually no lessons of art. And then when you got to secondary school, in the second year, you started doing drawing. Okay, so you had drawing classes. And the third year was technical drawing. So you just had 1 year of trying to draw things. And then the next year was technical drawing and using a T ruler and doing all those things, which, you know, but anyway, that's all the art that was there. And there was no teaching on history of art or anything like that. We learned about the main painters, but nothing much.
So did you learn a lot from your family about the history of art and how to look
I
at
learned from
art?
my family, and my own interest, you know, and my father had a lot of books and on art, so I used to sit down and read and see all the books, and that's the way. And then we came to Europe and we visited millions of museums and things like that. So it's mainly my family that taught me art appreciation and the history of art.
One of the things that myself and lots of other arts education people are thinking about at the minute with lockdown is the fact that, you know, some children will actually benefit from this time with their families because they will spend time looking at books and reading and talking about art, etc. And sadly, for various reasons, some parents just don't have that enrichment to offer, and it's one of the concerns about this period of homeschool time.
One of the interesting things is these virtual museums, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible. And now in the television, you'll find, for example, in BBC4, a lot of art programs that are absolutely lovely. I'm hooked with them, you know. And yes, no, the matter is the will to go and see it, because a lot of people say, "Oh, art boring," you know, and until one day you get this bug inside of you, and it's also, if you have it in you, this profound need for creation. You don't feel complete, you don't feel 100% if you're not creating. So
do you think everybody is born with that need to create somehow?
I think so. And the other problem is that through life and all that, a lot of them get discouraged because the people don't like it, or they are very insecure and they don't want to show what they do. And it just dies, and it doesn't resurface. A lot of people create in different ways. You don't need to be a painter, a musician, or an artist. You can create in many ways. I write computer programs, so I do a lot of creative things and design and things like that. So that's all right.
So would you say that you've always, from the beginning when you started painting and making your own art, you've never had a gap? You've always continued to have that out?
No, I had many gaps, and that in a way is interesting, because when you're painting all the time, I consider myself a professional painter because I sold paintings. So I suppose that if you sell something, then you become a professional. But it's been very patchy, because there are times when I had time and times when I didn't have the time. And I had a couple of exhibitions in which I said, I haven't got any paintings and I'm exhibiting in 3 weeks. And that was an incentive. But what I found difficult with this is that if you're doing it every day, you have a body of work, and you can drag ideas out of that body of work and work on an idea and develop it and change it, and it's there. If you stop, that body of work gets forgotten, and you go back and you're just facing one of the most frightening things in the world, which is a white canvas in front of you. I did it so often that I stopped and then I started. I developed a few tricks to start myself going. And
what are the tricks?
The tricks is start in black and white.
Ah,
You start in black and white, and then the other thing that I do is design by accident. So I put a splash of whatever, see how it looks like when you watch the clouds in the sky,
yeah,
and then complete it.
yeah,
And that way also, it's not just designed by accident. The design is an accident, but your interpretation is your subconscious that is telling you you've seen that, you develop that, and you're taking out. It's like the psychological Rorschach splashes, and
yeah.
they fold the paper, and they ask you what they are, and I think that it reveals a lot of your subconscious and of your deeper thoughts. So I find that very interesting.
Yes.
And that's my trick number 2. And my trick number 3 is start looking at paintings of other painters and start trying to imitate the style, not the painting, but to imitate the style. And that also has brought a lot of fun to what I produce.
Yeah. I like the act designed by accident, and it reminds me of a game that I usually play in the classroom, and I have played when I was younger, where one person makes a doodle, and they pass the paper, and you have to make the doodle into something, and then you keep exchanging doodles.
Yeah. That I used to. Funny enough, many years ago in medical school, there was another medical student, and he used to paint, and then he went to America. He's a psychiatrist in America, and I came here, and I hadn't seen him for 50 years. And one day I said, I wonder if this chap is still painting. So I went to Saatchi Art. I put my things in Saatchi Art. I put a few things. I haven't got a lot of stuff there, but anyway. And I said, I wonder if he's here. And he was there. So I bought one of his paintings. And we got in touch again. And we used to, in medical school, we used to do that. We used to do paintings. Okay, you paint that, and then you paint that. Oh, no, I spoiled it, you know. So no, that was fun.
So when you were studying for medicine to begin your career, the study must have been quite heavy. And how did you find, the creativity and stuff to do? It helps?
Well, I had more time when I was a student than when I was a doctor.
Okay.
Yeah. And I found that it was fun, and always, it's like having two personalities. Medicine is very stressful for many reasons, not only for doing surgery, but all the things that go with it, all the regulations and all the patients, treat them properly. It is very stressful, because when you do something on somebody, surgery, it has to be perfect. There's no excuse, nothing. It has to be perfect all the time. And there are a few professions are like that, like an airline pilot, that has to be perfect. He has to land that plane properly every time, and it's the same with surgery. With art, it's a lot easier. The stress, okay, it didn't work. Let's get another piece of paper and start again. It's so it relaxes your mind.
Have you ever used your career or the medical side of things as inspiration in your work, or is it quite separate in your?
I keep them separate. I did a lot, or I still do a lot of medical illustration, but that's not painting really. It's just illustration. I published 2 books with Apple Books, and I did all the illustrations for that. And some colleagues asked me to do illustration for them. And I just did a website for another colleague, and I designed a lot of stuff and did the logo for his company and things like that. It's fun. Yeah.
Do you find stuff like that satisfies the same creativity outlet in you, or do you find that's, because for me, doing things like that, it doesn't quite scratch that itch?
Well, I'm very vain. So if I do something and somebody tells me, "Oh, it's lovely," that's it. I love it.
Okay, yeah. I think a lot of artists are. I think artists love to hear, that their work is good.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so many talented people.
Mm,
You just go around and you see and you say, goodness, he should be tops. And it's like many things in this life that is who you know,
yeah.
and there's a stroke of
I
luck.
think as I think the artists that make it, especially now with Instagram and all these other things, you have to be so good at self promotion. And some people are very talented, but they haven't got that self promotion side of
That's
things.
right. Yeah.
Um,
There was I remember reading somewhere there was this school in America that they teach you how to talk about your art,
hmm.
and because that's I'm terrible. They ask me about things, and I have to think. I said no. The interpretation is very subjective. I don't tell you anything, you know.
Up to me to tell you,
So
yeah.
no, but these people learn how to sell their art and talk about it. And I did this and that and the other. Art art for the human beings like us is one thing, and art for these investment people is a completely
Yeah.
different thing,
Mm,
and
I
it's
think,
all about business and
yeah.
things like that.
And
You know,
that's a
so
side of things that traditionally artists don't really want to think about, this kind of side of things.
yeah,
You just
yeah.
want to be free to make your art.
Sorry, it's a mosquito in here.
Him. So what do you think? Because obviously you know that I've been in the world of education and art education, and particularly primary education, and there's a lot of um, a lot of different approaches to teaching art in primary school. So some people believe that it should be taught linked into history and geography, for example, that it should be taught separately, that it should be all about the skills, or that it should be more expressive. Do you have any sort of thoughts about what you think primary art education should look like?
It is a very difficult question because at the end of the day, I think that art is something that is very personal.
Mm,
And some people will flourish if they do art combined with other areas of education, and some people will flourish with no education on art at all.
mm,
One thing I always didn't like a lot is people that go to art school, and it doesn't happen now as much as it used to happen, but they all came out without the style of themselves.
mm.
They came with a school style, but not with a style from themselves. And you have to be very careful when you educate on art to give them the instruments to produce the art, and also to give them the security and the
Yeah.
self-assurance that they can express what they think, not what everybody thinks, what they think through the instruments that you give them.
Yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree. It's about, and I was talking in one of my last interviews about a similar thing, that it's about helping children to feel that they have value, and that their experiences and thoughts and ideas are valuable, not to feed them, like you say, spoon feed them. And I think that goes for making art, but also talking about art, because
Yeah,
children should feel confident, whatever background they come from, whether they have a family who goes to galleries or not, to talk about art, and that their opinions are valid. But like you said,
yeah,
there's an elitism around going to galleries. Oh no, it's boring, it's not for me, or um,
that's right. That's right. And you see, modern art is one thing that is an acquired taste,
mm,
and for a lot of people, just to be confronted with some of the abstracts and things like that, it's difficult to understand at the beginning. Until you discover that what's behind. And I speak to a lot of people that say, I could do that.
yes,
That's just that's just that.
or a child
And
would do that.
uh, And I one day I gave a pencil to somebody and said, I can do that. Okay, I said, do it, do it. It's not that easy. It is not that easy. And you need a little bit of seeing a lot and beginning to like it and understanding what's behind.
And I think it's about the materials as well, isn't it? It's about you can only really understand art and paint, for example, if you've had a good bunch of experience just exploiting the potential of that material properly.
That's right. I love things. If I'm doing DIY, I will buy every single tool under the sun. And with painting, I like to experiment with every single medium that you can put. I almost have a fire at home doing encaustics and wax. So I stopped doing that. But I try everything. I really try everything.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and even you'll see that even your technique and the way things look change when you use a different medium. And I love to experiment. I love it.
I always think it's like the materials have a personality and you have to get to know their personality.
That's right.
In the future, when you have an idea, you think, oh yeah, I'm going to use the heat gun for that or this paintbrush for that.
That's right.
And that's why giving children that chance, I think in schools a lot of the time there's an expectation that they're producing an outcome and the outcome has to look a certain way. And there's such value in that time, which on the outside might look like you're just kind of mucking around and playing, but you're learning.
Yeah, no, it's very important.
So we talked a little bit about well-being and creativity. Do you have anything more to say on that relationship between, like we said, I agree, creativity can be anything, playing an instrument, even baking a cake, anything. But do you think, I suppose a little bit as well with your medical hat on, do you think there is a relationship between mental health maybe and creativity and this kind of thing?
Of course. I think anything that occupies your mind and completely focus on something that is what you're doing and you're not thinking about anything else, it has to be healthy. It has to be good.
Yeah.
And sometimes I forget about the problems and I painting or when I had my photographic lab, I used to lock myself for hours and open the door and say, oh, it's nighttime, and you get lost, and that is healthy.
Definitely, yeah. Taking yourself out of the situation or whatever, and just, it's like having a real break from everything, a mental space. I talked to an artist called Olivia in one of the other chats, and I meditate as well, but she also meditates, and we were talking about how the relationship between, for some people meditating is sitting and meditating, but creating is like another form of meditation.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, look at the Zen. Always you're doing something, and that requires your whole mental capacity, and you don't think of your problems, you don't think of anything, just what you're doing in that moment, and that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say to anyone who feels, like you said, you touched on earlier, that especially adults, even if they did like art when they were children or they used to be creative, it seems that some people get to a certain age and they think, oh, no, I don't do that anymore. It's kind of a waste of time almost. What would you say to anyone, and even children, who feel like they're not creative or they're not artistic?
I'm a great advocate for going around and saying, try, get a pencil, buy some watercolors, do whatever, get whatever and make a mark on a paper. And some people say, I'm so happy that you told me, and others say, no, I wasn't good at it. And it's a lot of the way the security of themselves, that they can they can do something. And if obviously the first time is always difficult and it's not going to be fantastic, and that is enough to discourage anybody
Yeah.
if they're not absolutely convinced that that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And it's easier with kids because kids would do it. They love painting. They are born loving to paint, and but with adults it's a different thing.
You have to kind of work backwards. But that's interesting what you're saying, because even with children, especially when they hit a certain age, that perfectionism comes in. Or I think if you're not a secure human being in yourself, then you're so scared of taking risks. So to draw something or paint something is a risk, isn't it? There's an element of being vulnerable when you create. And I think a lot of adults and children, for whatever reason in their lives, they haven't got that kind of resilience, or I don't know, confidence.
There are two things that I know. One is the fear of people saying, "Oh, that's rubbish. I don't like it," and you put a lot of effort into it, and
Yeah.
that is fear. And the other one is the fear of exposing a lot of internal feelings that you have, that they are very private and very internal, that sometimes they come out in the paintings. And it's always fear in both
Yes.
aspects of that.
Yeah. How do you deal with, or have you ever had to deal with, like, you know, because it does hurt, like you say, you're putting your heart and soul into something, and if you receive perceived criticism, how do you deal with that?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I just try to humor it. I remember I had an exhibition, and there were a couple of friends of mine,
No
and
more.
they started mocking. Oh, well, what's that? Is that a man? Ho ho ho! I said, no, it's whatever. Blah blah. Right. You know, you cannot show that you're angry. You cannot show that it hurts you, because then they do it even more. And you just deal with it. I say, okay, you don't like that. I'll paint another one tomorrow, and that's it. Yeah.
Just keep
We
going.
in Spanish there's a saying, and it says, I am not a gold coin to be liked by everybody. So, some people will like you, some people won't like you,
Yeah.
and that's part of being human, and you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
You see, at my age, you learn to accept these things.
But I think that is another one of these human, like, foibles, that we think that we need to be liked by everybody, and everybody needs to, be smiling when they talk to us, and it's like, no,
Yeah,
my mum is a bit of a maverick as well, and so I never really worried too much with that. But I know a lot of people who are what you would call, like, people pleasers, and they find it so difficult to be outspoken or to say what they really feel.
Yeah, I think the secret is to be yourself, and to be yourself, you have to accept yourself. And if you don't accept yourself, then you're in trouble. But if you say, okay, I'm not perfect, I don't do this, I don't do the other, but I still love myself and I accept myself. I think that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And I think creating helps you to get to know yourself.
Absolutely.
When you're in the
and to discover yourself, because it's self-discovery, and art helps you to discover yourself. And it's frightening sometimes. You say, oh, did I really paint that? And so it's and there's a Cuban painter, what's his name, Carlos Quintana.
Okay.
And again, he tries to is described as explores the mysteries of the individual, which is lovely. And he's got really lovely, colorful paintings and very interesting subjects and things like that. So that's I want to talk about him because nobody knows him.
Last April I was in Cuba, and oh my gosh, the art there is incredible. So the art scene there doesn't seem to have the elitism of the art scene anywhere else I've been in the world. and the paintings are so primal, so expressive, so colorful.
And in Cuba, you'll find that the ballet so important, and medicine is, they have extremely good medicine in Cuba,
Oh, really?
and a lot of things. Life is tough and
Yeah.
difficult,
Yeah.
but they have put really a big effort on the arts, and I think is paying back.
Yeah, I could feel it in my heart when I was there. The art and the music was everywhere, everywhere, and it was open for all. And everybody, you know, you feel that everybody there can engage with it. It's not just for some of the people; it's for
Right.
everybody. It was incredible, really amazing. Do you
Yeah.
feel that your environment affects your art? So do you ever think about Mexico or the colors or the styles? Does that come through in your painting? Or
Uh, what you see, always in the back of my mind, I say I should paint more Mexican, and and you know, I paint what comes out. I really, I seldom I come in with a plan.
yeah.
I said, okay, I'll start drawing something, and it just evolves. I hate to say, today I'm going to draw a house with a person.
No,
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
no. Are you
So
working on anything at the minute? Have you got any paintings on the go at the minute?
I'm drawing a lot in the iPad because it's easier. This place is my office studio, whatever,
Yeah,
and it's a little bit small.
yeah,
So I'm finding it easier just to paint a few things, and if I want to develop it, then I will put them in canvas or paper.
yeah.
But the iPad is great,
Yeah.
fantastic. I love it.
Do you find that does it feel the same as painting?
No, it
No,
will never do that.
no.
But it's another media. You see,
Mm,
is another media that you know, makes life easier,
yeah,
and it has a few other things. Um, David Hockney loves his
yeah.
iPad,
I've never
and
I want to get more familiar with it. I don't know, something about having a device. I've got a block with it and I need to get over it because I know it's obviously a really, you know, another
it's
material.
just another media.
Yeah,
You know, don't take it as electronic. It's just another media. You
yeah,
know, you
yeah.
will never be able to reproduce some of the other medias on the iPad, but you know, just to put a line to
Mhm,
do something
mhm.
is great.
And
Yeah.
it's instant. You just pick the thing up and you're doing
Yeah,
it.
you don't have to set up, you don't have
Mhm.
to wash your hands.
Yeah,
You know, you just go for it.
yeah. What do you think children, in terms of exposure of materials and techniques in schools, do you think, you know, the more the better, or just focusing on painting and drawing, or
I think it all depends on the age, but I think that
yeah,
what will be great is just to let them play.
yeah,
Let them play. What are you doing? Oh, that's as much. That's great, fantastic. Let them put some other color,
yeah.
and let them play with the materials. And as they grow, they
Mhm.
will start using them in a more constructive way.
It's like having trust, isn't it? I think a lot of
Yeah.
teaching and schools are based around the a bit of a lack of trust in the children.
Yes. Yeah. No, don't do that. Don't do that. No, you don't do it like that. Is come on, you know, get dirty, you know, put
Mm,
more color and use
yeah,
your hands, and
definitely.
you know,
And if they
and
say,
have
"Oh, that
fun.
didn't," yeah, if they say, "Oh, that didn't work," or "I don't," then you talk to them. Okay, why? What do you think you could do differently? Or yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
thank you. I think we've covered loads of what I don't.
I did some homage to some important painters, and that just was fun to do
Mm,
with that. So I'll send you photographs of. I did one that is a Rothko,
mm.
and it's been defaced by Basquiat. So, the other one is similar to the series. You remember the Kooning women series? These women with big eyes and funny bodies. And I did one like that with a lot of flowers around and colors and whatever. That probably I gave it to Lauren. Lauren had that painting. I don't know.
Oh, the one that was in the house.
Yeah.
Behind the chair. Yes, we love that one. I love that one. Yeah, absolutely.
So that is the Kooning.
I
Homage to the
didn't know
Kooning.
that about it, but yeah. Oh yeah, I love that.
And it's also important to realize that you can do art even if you're not a everyday artist, and you can take yourself seriously as an artist. When I started doing, a lot of the people, critics, whatever, is another doctor that paints, and I think that was very unfair. That really got me angry, because I consider myself an artist.
Yeah.
And to say another doctor that paints was a very painful thing.
But I think there's that thing, some human beings just love to have people in a certain place. You are this, you are that, you are this. And they find it so difficult. And I think a lot of artists seem to be into lots of things. You know, I love art, I love yoga. There's lots of things that I like doing.
I like music. I do music too, and all that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I hate that expression, jack of all trades. What is it?
Yes.
The one I mean, yeah.
Master of none.
Yeah, master of none. But I think it's...
I'm happy to be master of none. I'm having a great time.
Exactly, I'm having a great time. That's exactly it. Yeah, just enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for talking.
On the contrary, it was great fun.
Painful.
Sorry?
I hope it wasn't too painful.
No, on the contrary, it was a pleasure talking to you. We had great fun.
Good.
And you know, as I told you before, I'm very vain, and I love talking about myself.
You know what I'm realizing? All artists are. The second I say to people, do you fancy doing this chat? Just talk about. Most artists say, yeah, okay. I thought I'd be having, problems finding people, but artists love to talk about themselves. It's brilliant.
Yeah, well,
but it's
that's part of it, isn't it? To expose yourself.
Absolutely. And this is partly why I want to do this, is for teachers who aren't necessarily artists in primary schools and children, to speak to real artists. That is the best kind of inspiration, to get the ideas from them and talk with them about what they think about education. And hopefully when this is all over, I'm going to come and hang out.
Yes, please, anytime, anytime, and we'll have dinner. I'll cook some Mexican food for you.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And we'll have some tequila.
Yes.